A lot of times in this crazy world, it's easy to forget. And we don't think we forget, but we do, because we're just going through the motions of life. But today, it's just remembering all that God has done for us individually, for us as a ministry, for everything that we've seen Him do, not just to us personally, but to the people around us. That in itself is a testimony, because when we first came to God, we could not help ourselves. We needed help. But to see God just expand beyond us, that is His power. So I'm going to be in Deuteronomy, if I said that right. I can never say that book. Chapter 8. And this is them remembering God's faithfulness. And I'm going to start in verse 1. So Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 1, it says, "Every commandment which I command you today, you must be careful to observe, that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land of which the Lord swore to your fathers." See, He's giving them that promise again. The promise that God promised to Abraham, to Isaac, the forefathers, right? So He's reminding them, but He's telling them, you must follow my word, okay? A lot of times we get funny because we come to God, we start serving God, and we're so hungry for Him. We're hungry. We're just like, I want to know you. I want to follow you. Like, you saved me. You set me free. I want to do all that you want me to do. And as the longer we go on, we start to forget how important following His word is. We start relying on, I already know what to do. We start relying on, I know the right things. Or, I've been around this long enough, I know things to stay away from, I know things, what I shouldn't do, what I should do. But this is important. He's telling them, you must observe, you must follow my word, so that you are able to flourish and conquer. This is what He's telling them. Do you want to go and possess the land that I promised? Good. You must follow. You must go and conquer. You must go, and you have to follow my word so that you're able to know what to do. We can't be like, the people who in the Bible, when they went and they were like, okay, well, let's go get the Ark of the Covenant. Let's go to war. We didn't ask God, should we go? Should we not go? And what did they do? Just because they assumed, because they had the Ark of the Covenant, that God was just going to automatically give them the win. And what did God do? He let them fall on their face. See, we fall on our face when we forget to follow God. We fall on our face when we forget that it's God who's leading the way. He's saying, follow my words so that you are able to flourish where I plant you. So that you're able to flourish where I lead you, where I take you. Whatever land you're going to conquer, whatever land I'm going to give you to possess, you're going to flourish there. But only if you're directly connected in relationship with God. That's what it's literally talking about. If we have a personal relationship with Him, if we are following Him, if we are obeying Him, then we're going to conquer where He's leading. Is there areas in our life that need conquering? Is there areas in our life that we need to flourish in? Get closer to Him. Draw closer to Him. And the more you draw closer to Him, the more you're going to want to follow Him. It says, verse 2, "And you shall remember that the Lord your God led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble you and test you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep His commandments or not. So He humbled you, allowed you to hunger, and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that He might make you know that man shall not live by bread alone, but man shall live by every word that proceeds from the mouth of the Lord. This is powerful because he's telling them, remember, don't forget, acknowledge that I was the one that took you out of captivity, and I was also the one that led you all the way through the wilderness. I was the one, remember? He was the one with the pillar, the fire and the clouds, He never left them alone. Never. He never left them alone. So he's telling them, don't forget this. Don't forget that I'm the one that led you. But the crazy part, the key part, he says, I led you through the wilderness to humble you. What? That's not God. That's not God. That's a lie. I led you through the wilderness to humble you, and not just humble you, to test you. That means God was testing their faith and their faithfulness. It was literally a 3-day journey. A 3-day journey. But instead, he took them through the wilderness. And the reason why he took them through the wilderness is because if he led them straight into the promised land, they were going to face giants. They were not ready for them. And a lot of times, we think we're ready for stuff, and we're not. We're not. So God takes us the long, scenic route. We go through the scenic route. I like scenic routes. But not when it's all dead. You know what I mean? Just fields. And that's the way I seem to like to go. How do I end up in the wilderness? Because God says, I want to test you. I want to test your faith. In the wilderness is where I've gotten to know him the most. I've gotten to know him the most. And in that wilderness, he not only shows me his faithfulness, but he has made me become faithful to him. I've become more faithful to him in those times because I'm looking to him. I'm looking to him. He took them that way so he can know what's in their heart. If you really realize, most of the time when we go through trials or when we go through the pressures of life, that's when we know what we're made of. That's when we realize, especially with situations that we can't control, okay? If it's situations we can control, most of the time, no, I know it's none of us, we don't do this, but most of the time, people will try to make it happen or try to change it or try to avoid it because it's something we can control. But when we can't control a situation and we literally feel like we're stuck in it, that's when we can see what we're really made of. Are you somebody who truly has faith in God? Or are you somebody who has disbelief? Are you somebody who can trust God? Or are you somebody who just wavers? You're serving God today and tomorrow, not so much, Why? Because he's testing your faithfulness. In reality, he's trying to make us stronger. But because we are the way we are, if things are not going our way, a lot of times we give up and we want to do it the easy way. But see, God does things his way. He doesn't do things our way. And if we always have it the easy way, then we're never going to truly know what's good. We're never going to really know what's right. And that's the reason why he took them there. It's also because he wanted them to see the good things in life are gifts. What they want. We want meat. We want meat. So then what happened? Rain down these, what were they? Some kind of bird. Quail. So, okay. All right. Y'all want to complain? Have at it. Right? Have at it. We can become so entitled and ungrateful because we forget what happened. We forget where we came from. We forget it was God leading us all the way. He showed his power. He gave them supernatural food, manna, things that people before them didn't know. Water from the rocks. I mean, he showed them all kinds of stuff. so that they can consider them as gifts. See, the things that we have in our life, especially those things that we know we should not have, those things that we know for a fact we do not deserve. If we look at us before we started serving God to now, there is no way we should have what we have. There is no way we can be in our sound mind and make sound decisions and be able to raise a family in a godly sense. There's no way. But because God did a miracle in our lives, we have to remember what He did. We have to look at our family like you're a gift. You're a blessing from God. God, you blessed me with this. We have to look at our unsaved loved ones. We have to look at our friends. We have to look at our jobs. We have to look at all the things in our life. It's a gift. It's a gift. I can lose it today. I can lose it. You know how fast things happen? Accident, like that. Like that. I can end up paralyzed. I can end up in the hospital for months. I can lose, just anything can happen. But God knows what He's doing with each and every one of us. He does those things. He takes us through these times so that we can keep our eyes on Him, so that we don't forget who He is, so that we can have a good and healthy perspective of who God is in our life. When we start taking things and people and even God for granted, we forget how powerful He is, how He keeps the earth, how He says the earth is His footstool, how He conquered death, how the enemy's already been defeated. When we keep our eyes on God, we keep that perspective. We're able to keep that perspective. So even if we're in the midst of a trial or in a situation where we're feeling pressured and when we have no control, we can still be cool. We can still ride it out. We can ride it out. We can go to sleep with that peace. We can understand, man, God, you're in control, not me. You got this. The funny thing is, reading this, positive thinkers, they're going to be like, nah, God doesn't do that. You know, they won't agree with the way God deals with His children. Why? Because everything now is about spoiling. Everything now is, if you have riches, if you have success, if you have fame, that's God. I don't know. I don't know about that. God tests our hearts. It's like gold. You have to put it in the fire so it can be purified. And this is it. God does things in our life because He did it with Paul. Remember Paul? I'm going to read real quick. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 8 and 9. It says, and this is Paul. Concerning this, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times because he had it says in verse 7, he was talking about a messenger of Satan came and was harassing him. He's talking about a thorn in his side. And it says, concerning this, with the Lord, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it might leave me. But He said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My loving kindness and my mercy are more than enough, always available regardless of the situation. For my power is being perfected and is completed and shows itself most effective in your weakness. Therefore, I will all the more gladly boast in my weakness so that the power of Christ may completely enfold in me and dwell in me. See, the Israelites at that time, they were completely vulnerable and had to be completely dependent on the Lord. Paul was saying the same thing, and God denied his request. Can you believe that? Here, he's pleading with the Lord, take this away from me. It was either a physical ailment, which he was dealing with, and or his harassers, which were always coming against him as he was trying to build the kingdom of God. But God denied his petition for a higher purpose. God had a bigger purpose. The hardships that Paul, Israelites, disciples went through was all to cause them to become more and more dependent on the Lord. See, if everything is always going our way and every single prayer is answered in our time, would we really need God? Or would he just be like, what is that called? Have it your way. Burger King. It would be Burger King all day. You see those drive-thrus, they are packed. Nobody likes to cook no more. They're always packed. This is the way we want to make Christianity. Have it your way. And that's not how God works. All throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament, God talks over and over, if you love me, you follow my commandments. But see, we have decided to deceive ourselves and say, God, you're here for me. You're that genie in the bottle. I'll come to you when I need something. And the rest of the time, I'm doing my thing. And when I need you again, I'll be right back. See, but his loving kindness, he wants to show himself real to us over and over and over and over. Even if we take advantage of him, he has mercy on us. Jesus was telling Paul, I am enough for you. I am enough. No matter what situation you're in, I am enough, Paul. If you make me enough, you're going to take your eyes off of your situation, put them on me, and you're going to be all right. And this is what they were saying. In verse 4, in Deuteronomy, it says, your garments did not wear out on you, nor did your foot swell these 40 years. You should know in your heart that as a man chastens his son, so the Lord your God chastens you. Therefore, you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God to walk in his ways and fear him. Fear him. He's telling them, look, I instruct you, I discipline you, I teach you because he loves us. What does Hebrews say? He chastens those whom he loves, those who are his children. If you are his child, he's going to chastise you. He's going to discipline you. He's going to instruct you. Why? So that we don't get led astray. So that we don't go our own way and end up destructing or self-destructive. You know what I mean? Go into a self-destructive mode. So God does that, but he's also telling us that we must have a reverence for him. We must esteem him. We must put him in high esteem. Because if we put him in high esteem and if we have a good respect for him, then we're going to take joy in doing things his way. We are. If you have ever had somebody in your life that you truly respect, you don't ever want to feel like you disappoint them. You don't ever want to feel like you're doing them wrong. So even if it hurts you, you're going to respect them. You're going to honor them. You're going to give them that place. And this is what he's saying. Give me my place. Give me my place. A lot of times we think that we're being obedient. But wait till somebody comes and corrects. Then it's like, no. All of a sudden, that flesh comes up. Well, we're not as obedient as we think we are. Because when we're humble, we're going to take it. And even if they're wrong, it's just going to be like, God, show me. Show me. If they're right, they're right. If they're wrong, they're wrong. But show me, God. Change me. Deal with me. Because the more I ask God to change me, the more he does it. And the more I'm able to put him in his right place without feeling like I'm losing out. Because a lot of times we're scared to jump in 100%. A lot of times we're scared to conquer those areas that we need to conquer because we're afraid of what does it mean? What is it going to require of me? Is it going to take my whole life? Come on, our life is not our own anymore. So that's already out the door. We're still trying to hold on to our life. But if we jump in 100%, none of that stuff matters. It's just like, God, I'm here to follow you, whatever you want, however you lead me. Why? Because he knows what's best for us. In verse 7, for the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and springs that flow out of valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land in which you will eat bread without scarcity, in which you will lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you will dig copper. When you have eaten and are full, then you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land which he has given you. See, when we obey God, he brings us into a place of fullness. He makes us feel full. He makes us feel satisfied. He gives us of the very best. Sometimes that's material things, but most of the time it's spiritual. He gives you the satisfaction in your soul that you have been needing. He has quenched your thirst. He has satisfied your hunger. And he gives you those things that you've been needing. He gives you those things that you've been desiring. Because the closer we get to God, the more our desires turn for his desires. See, when we first come to God, we're like, okay, God, give us a house, give us a car, give me a good husband, give me a good wife, give me good kids. That's our prayers when we first come to God. But the more we grow and the more we mature, we stop praying for those things. And we're like, God, let your will be done. Lord, fill me, satisfy my heart and my hunger. I need more of you. For the deep calls out to deep. I need more, God. I need more of your presence. I need more of your direction. And so we begin to seek those things. And he satisfies. See, he promised Israel and he delivered. He made it happen. He didn't hold back no matter how much and how many times they rebelled. His faithfulness remained true. It's the same with me and you. No matter how stubborn we get at times, no matter how much we buck, God remains faithful. And in his faithfulness, he will always continue to draw us back. Verse 11, it says, beware that you do not forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments, his judgments, and his statutes, which I command you today, lest when you have eaten and are full and have built beautiful houses and dwell in them, and when your herds and your flocks multiply, and your silver and your gold are multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, when your heart is lifted up and you forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. This is important right here. The more God blesses us, sometimes it's our downfall. I've seen so many Christians, they start off asking for a job. They had no job, or they had the bare minimum where they could barely afford to take care of their family. They got a great job, and all of a sudden God was out of the picture. All of a sudden they weren't serving God no more. All of a sudden they were too caught up with their job. They got too caught up in building their own house. They got too caught up in doing their own, what they wanted, that they forgot about God. They forgot how he delivered them. They forgot how he brought them out of bondage. They forgot that they were enslaved because they became prideful. We did this. I took care of that. I got this. I got that. I made this happen. It was God. It was God that made it happen for them because of his promises way back. Way back. And a lot of times we have to be careful that we don't forget the Lord's faithfulness, that we don't forget about what He's done in our life. Have the nice house, when we have the nice cars, don't forget. It goes on, when your heart is lifted up and you forget the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, who led you through that great and terrible wilderness in which were fiery serpents and scorpions, and thirsty land where there was no water, who brought water for you out of the flinty rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna which your fathers did not know, that He might humble you and that He might test you to do you good in the end. To do you good. Then you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand has gained me this wealth. See, when he's talking about don't forget, he's saying where you lose memory. Sometimes we have, memory loss. Even if it's temporary, right? Even if it's temporary, even if we forget for a moment who God is and what He's done in our life, guess what? We're right back where we started. See, we might still have the nice things, but our relationship with God is not there. We have lost our relationship with God. So we have to remember that it's God's righteousness. And He knows how to deal with each and every one of us. When we look at others and God deals with them one way and He deals with you another, that's because that's how you function. That's how you work. That's how you get it. When God tries to be nice to me and, oh, my baby, oh, my daughter, oh, my princess, I'm just like, huh? Who are you talking to? Like the person behind me? Alyssa? You know? But to me, He's just like, the denozo slap upside the head, you know? That's how I get it. That's how I get it. He deals with each and every one of us. We have to know that in spite of everything we go through in our Christian walk, He does it for our good. We have to know this. We have to believe it. He does it for our good. We have to remember that it's Him that makes things happen and not us. We did not make ourselves stand-up citizens, okay? Most of us, you know, or a lot of them had records or, you know, just, we weren't going down the right path. The only reason why some of us didn't get caught was because of God's grace. That's the only reason. But we weren't stand-up citizens, most of us. And going on, verse 18, and you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth, that He may establish His covenant, which He swore to your fathers as it is this day. See, right here it says He gives you the power to get wealth. Okay, that's finances, job, stuff like that. So that He can establish His covenant. You get that? You catch that? Whatever you have in your life, it's because it's supposed to help you to fulfill His purpose. So we ain't that special. It's for Him. It always comes back to Him. Even when He says, you know, delight in me and I will give you the desires of your heart, it still comes back to Him. I will answer your requests that have to do with my purpose and will. That's what that means. Here, again, I've given you what you have because it's to establish my covenant, to establish my promise, my purpose. So we're able to use it for His glory. So we're able to use it for His kingdom. So we're able to use it to bless God's people. And even beyond that. Everything we have, even if we're not rich and we're like, oh, well, I'm broke and I don't have money. You're rich in spirit. Share. And the more we want to be tight with everything we have, the less we're going to have. But the more we share, whatever it is we have, the more God provides. Why? Because we're using it to establish His covenant, His purpose. So then it goes on. Then it shall be, if you by any means forget the Lord your God and follow other gods and serve them and worship them, I testify against you this day that you shall surely perish. As the nations which the Lord destroys before you, so you shall perish, because you would not be obedient to the voice of the Lord your God. When he's saying you shall perish, he's saying you will be lost. You will wander, not wonder like I wonder what it is, wander. You will wander. You will be reduced to some degree of disorder, or you will be destroyed. That's talking about eternity. Think about this. If we forget who God is, we will be reduced to some sort of disorder. That has to really speak to us. And that has to really cause us to check our heart. Because when we're not so tight with God, we can start to see chaos come in. We feel things in chaos. We feel our surroundings in chaos. We are in chaos on the inside. Our heart and our mind. It's out of order. Because we left God. If we forget who God is in our life, then we're going to have disorder. So if we think that we should be in a place but are not, where's our relationship? Are we truly obeying? Because he says, because you would not be obedient. See, God does these things to cause his people to come in so that we can get his blessing, so that we can draw closer and closer, so we can have his true, not just companionship, but his, his protection. He gives us protection when we are in obedience. Because if we don't remember his faithfulness, we go back into our old ways real quick. We begin to disobey without even realizing we're disobeying. And that's the scary part, because that's our flesh. Our flesh always wants to make us think that we're doing good when we're not. When we're not doing good. But God remains faithful. And I want to close in this, in chapter 7, verse 9. It says, therefore know that the Lord your God, he is God, the faithful God who keeps covenant and mercy for 1,000 generations with those who love him and keep his commandments. Up to 1,000 generations. God is going to take care of us. God will bless us. God will meet us. God will multiply those things in our life that we need multiplied. But when he begins to multiply you, when he gives you the ability to go conquer whatever you need to conquer in your life, don't forget God. Share what God's giving you so that you can continue to be blessed, but not just you, your family, your friends, your loved ones. Amen. Mighty God, we just give you glory, we give you praise, we give you honor, Lord. For you truly are faithful. And we thank you, God, that you remain faithful even when we don't. Lord, I just ask you that you continue to have your way in each and every one of us. Stir up our heart, Lord. Stir up our faith. That even, Lord, when we are being tested, even when you are humbling us, my God, let us remain in that place, Father God, of allowing you to, of giving you your place in that. That we will not resist you, that we will not fight against what you're doing, but that we will willingly go and follow you. Lord, let your word get deeper and deeper inside of us.